All right, welcome kings and queens. Thank you for tuning in today. I've been wanting to do something for quite some time, and it just felt right to do it. And I did it. So today I'm doing something that I haven't done before, and it's a breakdown of the relationship between Ariane and Martell. This is an assessment of their relationship. Like I said before, I've been wanting to do it for quite some time, and I finally had some downtime to put it all together. So go ahead and sit back, make yourselves comfortable, and let's talk about it. We're going to walk through this together step by step, and we're going to explore what trauma bonding looks like and why I believe this is what's happening between the two of them. Before I jump in, I want to highlight a special live that I'll be doing for members only in December. It's a goal planning session. I'll email you and send you the documents that I'll be using, and you'll need these. So I'll send them to you one by one via email. But this is an exercise that has changed my life. It's a very specific exercise. I started doing it at age 27. And from there, my life accelerated in the most positive manner. Not to say I've never had challenges, but it's always kept me on course. So I just want to share that and have like a really intimate setting with members only and just have a little fun, have like a little mimosa, champagne, coffee, tea, whatever, and really do some goal planning for 2023. For those of you who are just tuning in, or if you're new to the channel, welcome to the palace. I am Queen Shiba. I cover a variety of hot topics specific to reality television, but most importantly, I hone in on the psychological and the behavioral traits of the Black experience. So let's talk trauma bonding. Trauma bonding happens when an abuser uses manipulation tactics and cycles of abuse, whether it's mentally, physically, or emotional. Those cycles, they use cycles of abuse to make the victim feel dependent on them for care, for validation, recognition. And this causes like a strong attachment between you and that person, a strong bond, a strong relationship, friendship. This often occurs in romantic, narcissistic relationships, but it can also happen with your family, with your friends, or even at work. So in this situation, I think both Ariane and Martell have both used manipulation tactics on each other at various times throughout their relationship. The cycle that they're currently in now, based on my opinion, I believe right now, not even talking about the past, Ariane may be the aggressor as Martell attempts to passively move on. As we've watched the back and forth between Ariane and Martell, right now they're in a good place. Okay. But remember, she released all of those text messages, emails, phone calls. I believe that was her attempt to sabotage and shame him publicly by sharing their erotic indiscretions. So I am going to cover a lot today. I told you to sit back and make yourselves comfortable. I mean, whether you want to cook, whether you're sitting outside or you're just driving in the car. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to break everything down first. I'm going to list everything I'm going to cover. So let me run through the list. I'm going to cover exploitation. I'm going to cover bondage, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, sexual perversion, strategic manipulation, coveting from both parties. Both parties are guilty of coveting. I'm going to cover likeness. Remember, she used that word a lot. Likeness. I'm going to talk more about that. I'm going to cover parental neglect, soul ties, retaliation, and predatory behaviors. All right. Are y'all ready? So in that list, I called out 14 separate items. I'm going to start with the first half of the list, and I'm going to work my way down. Number 1, exploitation. I believe both of them are guilty of exploiting each other both mentally, physically, and emotionally. Mentally are the mental games that they've both played with each other over the course of the 7-year span that they've had this adulterous affair while Martell was married and post-divorce. Physically is the sexual bond, the sexual nature of their relationship, which is the dominant feature of the relationship. And emotionally, they both discard each other. And I wouldn't be shocked if Arion has narcissistic tendencies or has a strong threshold of being, or a strong likelihood of being a narcissist as a female. I wouldn't be shocked. I don't know that to be true, but I would not be shocked. Number 2, bondage. How did they bond? When we think about trauma bonding, remember, it can occur in friendships, families, or work relationships. And both of them have used manipulation tactics and cycles of abuse to make each other feel dependent on each other. I believe they both bonded on a need to feel wanted, accepted. Martell utilized his marriage as an excuse to bond with this lady. Arion has never had a healthy bond with the man simply because her father was not a primary figure in her life. So, in my opinion, they both bonded over pain, inadequacy, both of them, of not having fathers. They both bonded over covetousness, resentment. And I think the resentment that they started to really, what sealed the deal with this relationship, in my opinion, is they became resentful of Melody. And Melody became the target because of Melody, they actually told themselves, we can't be together because of her. So that ignited that bond, that flame. And I think they built on their resentment and their discord towards Melody. And that led to the strong physical component that they've developed by way of sex. And I think Martell did that by design, because he was telling her everything that Melody would not do, as he told us, right? So imagine the things that he whispered in her ear, all of those sweet nothings. And she happily obliged. She happily gave her body over. And it felt good because she thought it was love. And he knew what he was doing, right? So when I talk about the cycle of abuse, the back and forth, that's what I'm talking about. She thought she was getting love. In exchange, he was being fulfilled mentally and physically with the S word. However, take heed, you can never fulfill a narcissist mentally, physically, or emotionally. And I'm sure she's come to find out the hard way. Number 3, sexual perversion. Arion serves Martell almost like a sexual slave. Okay? That's the only reason he stayed with her so long. Narcissists do not have the capability to bond with you emotionally. It felt like emotion to her, but he was just using her for his sexual perversion. All of those thoughts that he's had in his head, I wouldn't be shocked if he's carried out every single act with her. Melody represented the spiritual essence, something that he can and will not ever be. That spiritual component. And I'm not talking about God. There's this tenderness, this light, this covering that Melody has. And that's what attracted him to her. So let me say it again. He was attracted to Ariane sexually because he could do anything that he wanted to her regarding the perverted thoughts in his head. Melody was a spiritual covering, something he's never had from both his mother nor his father, something he wishes that he could aspire to, but he can't. Because in my opinion, he's a narcissist and he has a personality disorder. And according to psychology, there is no cure for that. Okay. Sheree. Let's talk about his attraction to Sheree. Sheree represents the physical stamina of him. Sheree's body is symbolic, okay, of the physical stature that he has. All of these women are masculine in nature. And I don't mean that by manly figures. I want you to challenge yourself to think beyond what I'm saying. All of these women are masculine in nature. They drive the tone, the conversation, and they take the lead, not only of their lives, but probably the relationship that each of one of them have had with him. Sheree is not as much in the forefront. She's behind the scenes. And I guarantee you, the reason why Sheree has not been as vocal or as present is because he's probably told her something negative about Melody and or Ariane wanting to be seen. And that's what narcissists do. They'll tell you everything about what their ex has done to ensure that you don't do it. And not because it's true. It's a form of control. Okay? But for every reason that I called out that he's attracted to these women, he will eventually come to resent them for the same reasons that he picked them. Trauma bonding. Let me move on. I talked about bondage and I talked about exploitation. So the physical component, he exploited Ariane for her sexual capabilities, and then he threw her out like trash. Not only post-divorce, but while married. He meant what he said when he called her a peasant, because he doesn't think highly of her. He meant exactly what he said. She won't ever believe it because she's done things with him, with her body, she's probably never done before. And she can't believe that what she's done in a physical component is not good enough. That's why she gets drunk and went on those lives about your man want me, your man want me, your man want me. Because to her, what she can do in the bedroom is the end all be all. And you know why? Because he's told her that. He's probably told her he said it on that Love and Marriage Huntsville when Melody threw the drink at him because he said, she pleases me. Oh yeah, he said that out loud and he's gotten her to believe it, but it's all a lie, you guys. She don't please him. And why does she not please him? Because he's a narcissist. You can never feel them mentally, physically, and or emotionally. But that's what a narcissist does, though. They beat you down to the last drop. And they're going to extract every morsel you have and then leave you depleted and defeated. Martell doesn't want Ariane because he's done everything he can do with her sexually. He's beat her body down to the last drop. There is nothing else for him to explore, to discover, or to honor. Let's move on. Number 5, strategic manipulation. By strategic manipulation, I talked about how Sheree is probably in the background based on Martell manipulating, outlining everything that Melody and Ariane has done to him. Now, Ariane doesn't know this. I'm sure Melody is now aware of how Martell works. Okay. So he's strategically manipulating, setting the next victim up, which is Sheree. And there's nothing new underneath the sun with a narcissist. He's done it to Melody. He's probably done it to Ariane. I'll give you some examples. when you get with a narcissist, they'll start to tell you things. And if you're not careful, before you know it, you're behaving in those ways so that he can see or she can see that you're different. I'll give you an example. He may say something like, I find women more beautiful when they don't wear makeup. I see all these women piling that makeup on their face and they look like clowns. Now, I'm not saying that's what Martell's saying. I'm giving you an example. And before you know it, when you're new in the relationship and that narcissist has said that to you, you start to wear a little bit less makeup. And not because you don't like makeup, but you're like, you know what? That's valuable because you don't know he's a narcissist yet. Okay. So the bun hairstyle, I believe the reason Ariane walks around here looking like that with that bun on top of her head is because somewhere along the lines, he has probably told her, you look so beautiful with that. You have such beautiful hair that you can pull up in a bun. I love your hair like that. And she remembers that. And she repeats it over and over and over as a cycle to keep him interested. At one point in time, do y'all not remember when Ariane got on live and her hair was all over her head? She looked like, I don't know what she looked like. A very common woman, no makeup. It looked like she put no effort into herself. Do you remember that? And I believe there's a strong possibility. The reason she was walking around looking like that is probably because he told her, I like natural looking women. I like you with your bun. I like the fact you don't wear all that makeup and run around here with this and that. And all that wig talk that she was doing, that came from him. When she was attacking Melody for wearing wigs, that came from him. I guarantee you, I bet you my bottom dollar. That's what a narcissist does. Okay? But she does it back to him when she hops on live talking about moving on with her cat daddy. So that's strategic manipulation, both employed by both parties. Number 6, coveting. Both parties are guilty of coveting. She wants Melody's life, and so does he. And they both want it together. If they could have, they would have X'd Melody out the picture a long time ago. Which is the reason this broad named her son Maverick, an M name to go along with the other legitimate children that were birthed in Martell's and Melody's marriage. This woman actually, think about this, coveting. I have a child with Martell and I'm going to keep the M in the family. This lady actually at some point felt like she was a part of the family. That sounds sick, right? That's a strong trauma bond because she started to feel like she was a wife throughout this trauma bond. She and Martell had become so close in the most toxic manner, she actually felt like she was a wife, and he may have started to treat her like that behind closed doors. Slowly but surely, I think she woke up one day, and I think y'all whooped her ass on the internet. Y'all stayed on her. Y'all applied that pressure. And I think slowly but surely, reality slapped her in her face. And she woke up and she looked at herself. And she probably realized, I'm delusional, which is why she can't bring herself to call him his name, which is Maverick. And now she resorts to Holt. She won't even call him Knox. Very often. She for some reason, she resorts to Holt quite often. And that's the coveting showing because she wants that life that Melody has, those Holt children, right? So my child is a Holt. But what she's attached to is what Melody has built with her children, how well received the Eminem kids are. And she's attached to that image. And that's why she's constantly referring to that little boy as Holt. And I low-key wonder if that was the straw that broke the camel's back that caused Melody to alienate the name Holt. I know Melody said got to go, but I wonder if that was a huge influence on why she backed the hell up and alienated the name Holt so she would no longer be associated with Martell by anything else that comes along with that name. All right, we're almost done. I've now advanced my way to the second half of the list. So let's talk about likeness. For close to a year, you heard this girl get on the internet and rant and rave. And she talked about her likeness being used by Melody in the OWN network, which goes back to coveting. Remember when I said, not coveting, I think it was coveting that I said, yeah, it was coveting. Remember I said that she thought she was actually the wife. At some point, she had become so delusional, she actually viewed herself as a wife. And I wouldn't be surprised if Martell had promised that girl he was going to marry her, run away in the sunset, they would live happily ever after. I wouldn't be shocked. So she thinks her son will receive or should receive the same likeness as the M&M kids due to her son's proximity to the other children and also having and sharing the same bloodline. The missing link is Melody. So what she doesn't understand is the likeness is actually Melody's likeness. It don't belong to you, sweetheart. And it doesn't belong to Martell. Melody is the missing link. And the fact that Melody's likeness has caused her children to be well received, to be as adorable as they are. And that's how Melody has raised her children. This trauma bond, this unrealistic expectation, living in la la land, has caused her to not understand that Melody's likeness is not your likeness. Nobody used your likeness. Everything you saw in the show was derived from the thoughts, the concepts, and the intellectual ability of Melody. And that doesn't translate over to you or your children, honey, not even to Martell. As you can see, when Melody left, the influence, the likeness, the recognition, the value left with Melody. Let's move on to parental neglect. Emotionally, I feel like she's neglecting her children, and she has. And you can argue with me if you want. The way that she's behaved on that internet, the things she has said, the graphic details she's described of her intimate bedroom life, painting picture of every body part and what he's done and what she's done, to me, in my opinion, you've neglected your children to protect them from your behavior on the internet. At what point do your kids become more important to you that you have a sense of self-control, a sense of self-awareness to say, I'm not going to do that because my job is to protect my children. And I know that anything I post can come back to haunt them. So in my opinion, ma'am, you have not been pouring into that child, nor your daughter, what you should be doing or should have done as a mother. Also, I believe she's neglecting her children financially by not working. You're an able-bodied person, and you're sitting back waiting to come up off of what Melody and Martell built together. Now, when you were in school, you were in school. As a college student, you expect college students to be focused on their grades, but you stopped that a long time ago. You are a single mother of 2 children by 2 different men. There's no reason for you not to be working. To not work, not only are you neglecting yourself financially, you're neglecting your children financially. You are not disabled. And I believe both of them are hoping Sheree would be the next come up in this trauma bonding scenario. In my belief, both Ariane and Martell are very lazy. Somebody mentioned, how come we don't see a lot of Martell's whine? Because he's lazy. Many narcissists don't like to work. They like the glitz, they like the glam, they like the visibility that comes from the dedication of work. but many of them do not like to work. And for the ones that do work, you'll start to notice a trend where they don't stay too long and they often change jobs quite a bit. Okay. Let's go to soul ties. I hate to say never. There's a strong opportunity. There's a strong likelihood that they will never leave each other alone. Nor do they want to some capacity. Her more than him, in my opinion, which is why so recently she made that shady post about co-parenting well a couple of weeks ago. That was a dig at Melody. For whatever reason, she's sitting back in that house as a result of not working, and an idle mind is a devil's workshop. Okay? Maybe Martell just giving her some money, or they are on a high in this cycle. They're on a high, like a roller coaster in this cycle. But I think considering her last post regarding we co-parent well, do you find it strangely odd that it's perfect timing considering the Destin trip is now happening? And then after the Destin trip, we know there's going to be some explosiveness. So she's plugging herself in on the brink of an explosion. And what I mean by that, on the brink of what's about to happen, what we're about to see play out between Melody and Martell. Okay? Because not too long ago, you were just calling him a narcissist. Not too long ago, you put on the internet that you were hiding behind the door and he was creeping through your backyard. Not too long ago, you just put that you had him on your Ring camera. Okay? But let's move on. Retaliation. I believe any woman he dates, she'll always be a thorn in that woman's side. They're not co-parenting well. He may have given her some money or made something happen in the background, but that has nothing to do with co-parenting, because you said before that he doesn't want to pick Knox up many times when he has the Eminem kids. Okay? Retaliation. Anytime he does something that ticks her off or makes her feel some kind of way, she's going to exploit him. Remember I said they take turns exploiting each other. And based on where they are right now in current state, I think she's the aggressor, which is why you see her exploiting his email communications. You see her exploiting him when he gets too close to Sheree. Okay. And I'm gonna be honest with you. If he chooses not to have Knox on any given day, she's going to exploit that. I mean, I know a lot of people say, oh, that's good that the kids are there together all times. But I think, just from the outside looking in, this is my personal opinion, I think there should be some times that he has the Eminem kids. There should be some times that Knox gets to see his dad just one-on-one. And then, however you want to blend them and bring them back together. But I think just by putting them all in one cluster, I don't know, over a long period of time, at some point, I don't know. That's just my opinion. Soul ties. No, retaliation we went on. So remember how she exploiting him for coming by the weekend after he and Sheree were spotted out for Aaron Ross's birthday? She said, I don't bother him on the weekends. I let him be. And here he is getting out of that lady's bed, coming to my home. That's not true. You do bother him. You do bother him. What probably happened is you probably became accustomed to texting back and forth every weekend. And for one reason or another, he went ghost on your ass that particular week. And you didn't hear from him, and it made you feel some kind of way. And after he was done having the time of his life filming with the Real Housewives of Atlanta, because you remember you said you know everything. You remember how she said, I know everything when they went to Destin, and she claimed that Knox was invited to go, but she told production no because she knows everything. Well, how come you didn't know he was going to be at that party? Miss Cleo? How come you didn't know that? So you do bother him. And let me tell you how I know she bothers him. If you go back and look at the last text that she posted on social media. She says, we co-parent well. Look at who initiated that communication about that little boy. It was her. You do bother him. He didn't say, look at Knox, I'm giving him a bath. You initiated that. And she will continue to in order to keep this trauma bond alive. This trauma bond is all Ariane has going for herself, unfortunately. And it is going to be the demise of her. This is all she has going for herself. In my opinion, she's more dependent on it than he is. So she'll always strike up a bit of drama whenever it suits her fancy. He has his children. He has Sheree. And in a very, very weird way, he has Melody by way of the children. So he can always feed his ego. Okay. He has own network. He has a television show. She has nothing. This trauma bond is necessary for her. And I'll tell you something else. I'm going to go a little bit deeper about this trauma bond. Do you remember when it was reported that she was thinking about the S word ideation? And it came out that she was thinking of harming herself. And then all of a sudden, she's like Wonder Woman. I believe that man tried to leave her and move on with his life. And I believe she reeled him back in, hook, line, and sink by threatening the S word ideation. Now, she blamed it on the fans. That's a lie. She loves the attention from the fans. I think at one point, he really tried to leave that girl alone, and she threatened that. That's just my personal opinion. Let's move on to predatory behaviors. That's a perfect example of predatory behavior. Because after she did that, he went live and said I think he posted it on his page, or either he went live. He said, she'll always be a part of my life. So he declared his allegiance to her by way of his child. But that was a predatory behavior. That was retaliation, a little bit of strategic manipulation. So when we talk about predatory behaviors, unhealed trauma causes a person to become a predator. It's a known fact. Whether it's bullying, narcissistic behavior, promiscuity, whether they're a habitual liar, or someone who's prone to physical violence. We know that Martell possesses a little bit of all that. We've seen him enact all of these descriptions. We've seen her enact a few of those. So that's predatory bullying. I believe even if this girl got a man, she's going to create and continue to create division and drama. And I don't believe she's above not starting a fight between Martell and any man that she gets with. Because remember, retaliation, predatory behaviors, strategic manipulation. Unfortunately, Martell will receive the short end of that stick if this girl ever moves on and decides she wants to create a little bit of drama and entice Martell. Martell would actually receive the short end of that stick because we've seen how his temper works. And if he reacts to that or goes over there, because you know he likes popping up at folks' house. Martell, what's up with that? Popping up at people's homes, women's homes. You could land yourself in jail. So I don't believe she's moved on from Martell. I don't believe she plans on doing so. I don't care what she says on the internet about having a cat daddy. I think that's very fictitious. I think she's lying. I don't think she wants to move on. And here's how we will know, and you will know, when she's really started the process of moving on. The day she starts working, we'll know she's packed her bags and she's left mentally. Other than that, she's too dependent on Martell. The only way for her to go and to free herself from Martell is to work. And in my opinion, she has no interest in working. She's not looking to be set free. So don't believe the hype. She isn't moving either. She's not moving. That's strategic manipulation. It's also a backhanded, it's also manipulation in addition to a backhanded compliment. Because you remember she said on her post, we co-parent well. And then you hop on a live talking about moving. Uh-oh, Martell, she's pissed off at you. So when she talks about moving, what she's trying to do is invoke the same emotions that she's seen him exhibit toward the Eminem kids when he and Melody were in a custody battle. She's trying to produce, and what is it called? The word. I don't want to say the wrong word because I said it on one of my videos, child, and y'all did not let me live that down. She's trying to formulate an emotional reaction from him that he's had about the Eminem kids and that hurt and the pain that he may have told her he felt, Melanie's not going to let me see my kids. She's trying to do that when she goes on live and says she's moving. But unfortunately, she'll never see that reaction. With all due respect, I don't believe, or I'm not sure if he has the same emotional capacity to feel the way about Knox that he feels about the Eminem kids, simply because he built a life with Melody. And that's a tough one. That's a tough pill to swallow, but there's a huge possibility that that could be true. So when she says she's moving, she's only looking for attention, y'all. Have you noticed how her looks have changed? Have y'all noticed that? Or is it just me? In my opinion, when it was first revealed who she was, I was like, okay, this is a tough one. Because not tough, it was still wrong, but I was like, she's an attractive woman. It seems as if her looks have vanished overnight. I don't see an attractive woman anymore. And it could be because we now see her down to the fiber of her soul, who she really is. That's one scenario. And the other one is a narcissist will do that to you. They'll leave a shell of what used to be you. And one day you'll wake up and you'll look in the mirror and you'll ask yourself, what happened to me? Where did I go? Yeah, that's what they do to you. And that's what I see when I see her. I see a shell of what used to be.